Thank you, everyone, for coming. If everyone could just give a glass up to Dr. Orden.
Can I put a glass up to all of you?
Yeah.
Congratulations, Dr. Orden, as January 15th is now Dr. Orden Day. I will have a chaperone. Just let me know. I'm going to pass the mic over to Jonas, and he's going to introduce our roast master for this afternoon.
Okay, so Jackie actually wrote something up here, and it's the kind of the rules for the next hour or so. Well, it's the unofficial rules. It's a roast is an event which an individual is subjected to a public presentation of comedic insults, praise, outlandish stories, true or untrue, and heart-turning tributes.
So, honey, keep that in mind. True and untrue.
So there's going to be a bunch of you coming up tonight, and Jackie and I actually do the publicity and marketing for Andrew, have for a long time, and I'll kind of start this off before we introduce Andrew Scheer here, who's going to be the moderator for the rest of the afternoon, the roast master. So just we've been working together for a long time. Just a couple of interesting stories over the past few years, and you know, I've known Andrew well before the Doctors was around, and I first walked into his office and said, hey, you know, we're an advertising agency, blah, blah, blah. You should start marketing. He's like, okay, that sounds good. I'm like, you know what's going to be best for you? You should get on TV. We could do some TV commercials and infomercials, something along those lines. He's like, you know, I don't think TV's for me. You know, it's just really not going to work out or anything. It's not going to further my career or anything along those lines. I'm like, you know, it's a push and pull relationship. I win this one. The next time, you know, moving along in the media world of TV and radio and everything like that, we're in New York. We're actually at a lotion convention for for the new skincare line. Thank God. But we're in Times Square. He's like, you know, this is really going to take off. I think we should get a billboard in Times Square. I'm like, oh yeah, really? So I go to him, I go, what do you think we should put on it? He goes, well, me. I'm like, perfect. So then kind of getting into the whole internet world and everything like that, it was when the Doctors were going to Haiti about a year ago. And, you know, he was sending pictures, and he's like, you know, you should get these out to the papers. This is good publicity. I'm like, oh, put it on Facebook. I think that's enough said with that. So, you know, we all love you, not as much as you love you.
That was my line, by the way. And we love you too much to tell you what some of your Facebook friends actually post that we read on a daily basis. But let me just tell you, you've got some really amazing fans. Some we won't mention because there are young people in the crowd.
Okay, Andrew Scheer, you're up.
Andrew warms up our shows every day.
Wait, there's a mic.
There was only one person that could be the roast master today, and that's Andrew, because he warms up our audiences before every show. And he's good at it. And he has a lead-in that I've only heard, you know, we've done 450 shows, I've heard it 450 times.
What is it? What is it? So it's, show me some love. Hey, let me hear you. Hey, okay. Let me just preface something from the very beginning. I am a TV producer. I am not a stand-up comedian. Okay. So I'm just going to share a couple stories with you of my experience with Drew Orden. It's all with love. It's all with affection. So if there's anything that you're insulted by, tough shit. Okay. But first, let me start off on raise your hands if you've been paid to be here. Couple of you? A couple of you? Okay. All right, so I'm off to a bang of a start here. Okay. So let me just go over a couple things with you guys. First of all, Drew Ordon. And I may use Drew Ordon many times throughout my little roast here. You know, I just got to do, you know, we've now we're in the middle of season 3. Like Drew almost said, we do 180 episodes a year, okay? And a lot of times, wait, I got visuals. A lot of times when we go on TV, we look for TV talk show exclusives. That's the truth. You want to find a good story, you want to find a good guest, but when you go out there, and I have my producers go out there looking for good stories, there's one story that it actually made was a talk show exclusive. But we didn't have to go too far. Why? Let me show you. Talk show exclusive. The first guest ever to go on national TV with a 2x4 up his ass getting a prostate exam. Okay? Let me just share with you. Prostate exam. What is the exclusive? The first exclusive, there's 2 of them. A prostate exam, a 2x4 up his ass, but he's also the only man on TV to have an orgasm while doing it. And I just got to share a story. Here it is, we're basically a live TV show. We throw to the urologist backstage, and he's got, like I just said, the 2x4 up his... And as that man enjoyed it more than anything else, and all of a sudden in the middle of it he goes, and God help me, you got a little Barry White? But the other thing is, I just want to know, you know, this is a great honor. You know, you look around, you walk around. You know, Drew calls me up, he says, you know what, I really want you to be the MC, or I want you to be the roast master for this, you know, this star. You know, I'm getting a star. And I'm like, wow, star, you Frank Sinatra. You know, you've got Marilyn Monroe. You've got Sylvester Stallone. And I'm like, wow, he's in great honor. But I don't get it. It's fucking Palm Springs. I'm walking up and down the street, and all of a sudden I see there's Orville Redenbacher. I see the Kentucky Fried Chicken guy. I got a question for you. Did you have to pay for this star? Okay, so I just got to go over a couple of things. Okay, a couple more visuals. This you guys will appreciate. Hold on. Okay. Now, as we know, Drew, Dr. O, is a big egomaniac. Week 1, he says to me, Andrew, listen, it's a talk show exclusive. You know who I am, right? I said, I know, Drew. You're a plastic surgeon. He goes, no. You know I'm a philanthropist. I said, yes, I know. He says, and you know I'm good looking, right? I said, yeah, you've told me 10 times. I said, Drew, I know. So I said, Drew, you know, everybody comes up to me and says to me, you know, that guy, he's really good looking. But what's up with his tan? I said, I know. So I got a couple pictures that I want to Why is this happening? A couple. Sound guy. Audio. See, I'm used to just giving orders. Audio. Hello, Tess. Is that better?
Better now.
Okay, better. Okay, so if I get. So, as we know, the truth behind the good looks of Drew Ordon is his beautiful bride, right? Robin. So we were able to go through the archives and able to get some couple photos. There's one photo that's been on our show about 6 times. Not because producers want it, it's because Drew comes to us and says, could you put me on again? He's the only man I know that loves to go to Turks and Caicos in a goddamn Speedo, okay? So here's the deal. I went back to find out how often this man spends time in the sun. So we're gonna do a little, you know, back in the day, this is 20 years ago, Drew Ordon with the tan, right? So here's what Drew Ordon looks like today, right? Now listen, we had George Hamilton booked on our show, and we looked for good choices. Let me tell you something, that man wanted to meet George Hamilton more than anyone else. Him, and he wanted to spend the night with Dr. Ruth. I don't understand. But we're all concerned about Drew, right, because of his tan. Because if he spends any more time in the sun, he's gonna look like Miss Phyllis Diller. Okay. Okay. But we also like to bust Drew's chops because, you know, he is the old man, he is the senior citizen of the crew. So I got a question for you. Is it true, is it true that your medical diploma was actually a cave painting? Is it true that the first breast augmentation you ever did was with a chisel and a rock? It's, you know, when we have a guest on the show, there are many times that I'll take Drew aside and I'll introduce him to some of the guests. And sometimes these guests, you know, have big breasts. So when Drew talks to the guests, he stares at her boobs. And I'm like, Drew, 8 inches higher. All right, I'm still doing okay, right? All right. Okay, here's a couple other things. Hold on. Okay, when I first met Drew Ordon, this is back in February, March of 2008. We went to the Beverly Hills Hotel Polo Lounge. And he goes, look, he says, I know I'm gonna be a star because I already am a star. I said, I know. He says, you know I'm good looking. I said, I know. I said, so what is it that you really, 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 really want about this show? He says, you know what I want? One thing. He says, this is all I want. I want to be on the cover of The Sexiest Man Alive, right? Right? This is what I tried to do. For 3 years, I'm trying to get him on the cover of The Sexiest Man Alive. But guess what? I've tried. Hold on. Wait.
He's got Shannon producing.
Hold on. I've tried. I tried senior living. Didn't happen. I tried senior leisure. Did not happen. But there's one magazine that I'd like to reveal today that Drew Ordon is now on the cover of. Ladies and gentlemen, for reveal, Drew Ordon, the cover of the AARP. Let me just say a couple things. Here are the cover stories. Sex After 60, tips from Dr. O. One-on-one with Dr. Andrew Ordon, how Viagra changed my life. How to get it up and keep it up with Dr. Drew Ordon. But also what happens, sometimes in daytime history, what we always try to do is we always like to reunite. You know, sometimes you watch these shows, you know, reunite people with the mom they never knew, or reunite, you know, a former ex-girlfriend or ex-boyfriend. Not on the doctors. We wanted to reunite with Drew with someone special. Someone who meant a lot to him. Someone who, like, we went back to the archives. We found someone really special. Someone that's gonna be here in just a couple minutes. Someone that he fucked up so bad. She'll be here. This is his first patient. Ladies and gentlemen, here's a picture after surgery of Drew Ordon's patient, Mrs. Jocelyn Wildenstein. Here we go. Now, is that not good or what? Now, a couple the Catwoman, a couple other things.
That's the joke.
That's a joke. Absolutely, just a joke. Now, a couple things you need to know about Drew. Now, everybody knows, what do we know about Drew? He's good looking, right? Well, he'll tell you how good looking he is. One thing that we also know is that we basically have a 1-hour show, and basically takes us about an hour, sometimes 3 hours to tape a show. But because we know the economy's in really bad shape and people are out of work, thank you to Drew Orden, we've now hired 5 additional people in my legal department because of all the sexual innuendos that Drew uses on a show. That man cannot go 1 hour without using the word, I'm in a restaurant, but fuck it, orgasm, masturbation, bodacious tatas, mattress mambo, horizontal hoochie. But I understand. This is a grown man. Now, sometimes also, and sometimes what you also need to know about Drew Orden is that a lot of us sometimes have taken 2 jobs or 3 jobs. Drew has taken a 3rd job. Raise your hand if you ever seen Drew doing the infomercial for Viagra or Depends. Anybody? He does them all, right? But he also said, here's another one. Drew also says that Viagra's like going to Disney World. A 1-hour wait for a 1-minute ride. But in all seriousness, I'm going to introduce someone else because that's kind of, I ran out of material. In all seriousness, we love you. We could not be happier for you. But we all know how good looking you are. And we know there's not a day that goes by without you telling us how good looking you are. So with that, I want to introduce his counterparts. The men and women who really make him look good. Dr. Lisa Masterson, Dr. Travis Stark, and Dr. Jim Sears.
So I know today is all about Drew, but give a round to Andrew Scher. He's been nervous about this all week. We're really proud of Drew. You know, this reminds me of when our show first started.
You're making me cry.
Remember when the phone show?
Yes!
No, but in all seriousness, when our show first started, we would get to the end of...
Doctor! It was a star, not a car!
Where are the keys?
When our show first started, we would be so delirious and tired after tapings because it takes a lot of mental focus to host a show. Lots of folks in the audience, cameras on you. You want to sound intelligent. We would all 4 of us, we would go out, have a beer, and die.
Go! Come on!
This man would have us on the floor all night long. Rolling on the floor, and to see you laughing here tonight, that is why we've fallen in love with you. Because in the end, I was embarrassed. Every time we would leave the studio, we would go to dinner, the first thing that would happen, because the 3 of us, you know, we just wanted to go be off stage. We did not want any attention. The first thing Drew does when he walks in, first of all, he looks at every table to make sure that people are looking. Do you recognize me? You sit down, you just want to order a beer, waiter or waitress comes up. Do you know who we are? The next movement by the three of us. And then the next question. Every single time.
Can I have your phone number?
Every single time. Who's your favorite doctor? Who's your favorite doctor? That is his favorite line. And you know what the beauty of it is? Again, the three of us, we're all a little bit like, but God bless you. You own it each and every time. No matter what, you ask, who's your favorite doctor? And you know what? You're our favorite doctor because you keep us laughing each and every day, my friend. So cheers to Drew Orton because this man is who he is, and you truly are a beautiful man.
And you know, when you received your star earlier this afternoon, and you talked about how you feel like, you know, you're almost like a big brother to us. You know, it's the same. It's a little different. It's more like you're actually a grandfather to us. And I love you, man. And I bet you next week, if you go look at Drew's star, you're going to have installed a skylight so that the sun is beating down on your star. I love you, man.
Oh my God. Drew, we absolutely love you. And I've always wondered how you stay looking so young, although we know you've got some little secrets. And one of the things, because you guys know how much I like Twilight and vampires and all that. So Andrew, our executive producer, I think there's a new show that needs to go in the works because I secretly think that he's, you know, a vampire because he stays so young. So I think a new show should be Drew Blood.
We love you, Drew. You look great.
So Lisa, who's your favorite doctor?
Drew Orton, the sexiest man, absolutely sexiest man on earth.
Because, you know, the truth is, ever since Drew started this TV talk show, he goes on TV and tells people, this is my before and this is after. This is before and this is after. We get all these patients. But the truth is, Drew Orton doesn't do shit. It's these other two people who do everything. So what do you say? We give it up for the men, the legend, Dr. Chopra and Rob.
Thank you.
It's Dr. Chopra and Rob from the office. You remember that?
Thank you, everyone, for showing up and coming here. You know, I was scheduled to roast Drew, and I was thinking, you know, there's nothing really weird about Drew. He's really like straight and narrow, normal. He doesn't do anything weird. Doesn't have any like personality traits that would lend you to believe that he's out there. So it's really hard to roast him. So I thought what I would do is look into his personality and find what the personality traits that led him to get a walk of stars, or walk of shame, or walk of fame, whatever it is. So meeting Drew about 3 years ago, I was finishing my fellowship in New York City, and I wanted to come to LA to be back at home, be close to the water, be close to my family. Our associate, Jay Calvert, interviewed me in Newport Beach. I met Jay in Newport Beach, had dinner and lunch, everything was great. And he looks at me and he's like, you know, you'd be a perfect fit for somebody in our practice, and that's Drew Orton. You'd be, you know, you guys are like two peas in a pod, the way you act, where you're from, things like that. You know, and I took it as a compliment. I'm like, wow, you know, Drew Orton's a successful surgeon, been in practice for 30 years. I really took that as a compliment. But now that I know Drew, yeah, 40 years, sorry. Now that I know Drew, I'm not sure how much of a compliment it was. I met Drew in the Beverly Hills office, a beautiful office, prototypical plastic surgeon's office. Beautiful penthouse, beautiful girls that are answering the phones. I come there, Drew walks down the hallway, and I'm thinking to myself, you know, he looks really good for a guy who's pushing 65, right? We sat down, me and my wife were together. He interviewed me, and it was a very serious interview. And he'd asked me, you know, where are you from? I said, New York City. He asked about, you know, who I've trained. He knew a lot of people who I've trained. And, you know, everything went really well. You know, we're both from Irvine. We both surf. We both play golf. So we really hit it off. And if anybody knows Drew, Drew's personality is sort of a sine wave. If you catch him at a, you know, his manic phase is good, but if you catch him in his depressive moments, you know, it's not so good. You know, some people call it bipolar. Some people call it schizophrenic. I just call it Drew, you know. So Drew gets up, and he's like, you know, it's super great meeting you. I really want to show you the operating room and things like that. And I said, great, dude. Show me the operating room. So he gets up, and it's, you know, we just finished a serious interview. And no joke, he gets up. It's a long hallway. He starts dancing down the hallway like, hooray for Hollywood. And, you know, he literally did that. And my wife looks at me, and she whispers in my ear, you know Caroline. Everyone knows Caroline. She whispers in my ear, and she's like, dude, this guy's crazy. And I'm like, clearly, but I like it. And she's like, you're crazy. I'm like, clearly. I talked to Drew, and I said, you know, let's think about it, and we'll talk later. Going home, Caroline, my wife, was like, you know, he's really crazy. I said, I know, but, you know, I like psych and medical school, so, you know, let's just give it a try. 2 months later, we meet in San Diego, and San Diego was when I was going to sign the contract. We were going to talk things over. We got taken out to a drug rep dinner. we had some steak. People from the office were there. Maria, everyone from the office were there. So you guys remember. So we had some steaks, had some drinks, and Drew, being the perennial 20-year-old, whispers in my ear. I just met the dude, kinda. He's like, dude, let's go out to a club. I said, dude, I am down. Let's go to a club. We're in Gaslamp in San Diego. So we go to the club. We get in the VIP area. We start having our shots, and we start drinking, and we start dancing. Everything's great. You know, about an hour later, he was doing his thing, I was doing my thing. I come back later, I hear a thud in the background. And I don't know what it is. I look over, and I see Drew sort of half passed out, sort of half passed out, half slipped, with a cut on his head, and smiling. You know, I've been in a fraternity, so I've been there, seen people like that. So I get him up, clean off his wound, make sure he doesn't need any stitches, and sort of do the walk of shame out of the club, putting him back into a cab and sending him home. And you know, anybody knows who Drew when he's drunk, he's like, you know, I love you, man, I love you. I'm like, dude, yeah, dude, I love you. Get in the car, dude. So he gets in the car, I put him away, and then I'm walking home about 1 a.m. in the Gaslamp district, and I'm thinking, this is my partner. So far I know he's manic and crazy, and he's a fall-down drunk. I'm like, I've made a good decision, clearly. 2 months into it now, we're partners. And this beautiful, I don't know, 23, 24-year-old woman comes in. She wants a revision rhinoplasty, a revision nose job. So I go in there, we both go in. we both go in there, and I do the medical history. What allergies do you have? What surgeries do you have? Do you have any problems with breathing and things like that? I have to leave the room literally for 2 minutes because I have to do Botox or something or other. I come back in the room, and Drew's doing the exam, right, the nose exam, but now she has her top off. And I'm like, really? I mean, I've been in training for 15 years, and I've never seen this kind of physical exam before. So I'm like, clearly I'm like, wow. So I come back in, and I don't know what to say. I'm like, oh, well, I guess this is the appropriate thing. So but it turns out it was totally legitimate, or at least that's the party line, right? Right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But so, you know, the curious thing was, is like, you know, how did you get her top off so fast? And he's like, it's all in the words, dude. It's all in the words. I'm like, okay, so I learned something. So I'm driving home that night, and you know, I've been in practice with him for 2 months, and the things I know about him so far, the traits I know about him so far, is that clearly that he's manic and crazy, he's a drunk, and clearly he has a golden tongue or a silver tongue with the ladies, right? So now the show has started, and Andrew knows, and you guys know, he's really busy with the show. Now I'm taking more of the operating room under my sort of premises. So now Drew, he comes in, we come in at 6:30 a.m. when we're operating. We might have 4 facelifts, a nose, a tummy tuck. We might have a ton of cases and complicated cases. The only 2 things Drew really cares about now is like, hey dude, what are we having for lunch? And you know, my prostate has been killing me. So every day I have to go through this litany of things. I'm listening to him, I'm like, dude, okay, so do you wake up at night? Yeah, I wake up at night. Do you have pain? A little bit of pain. How much do you wake up? Maybe about 4 times. So I mean, I'm going through this every week, every day, and I'm sure pretty soon he wants me to give him a prostate exam. I'm clearly not looking forward, right? I'm clearly not looking forward to that day. So, you know, the things I'm looking at now, I'm looking at the stars that I've gotten, you know, now I'm looking at the people that have gotten stars on the Walk of Shame. It's the Rat Pack, right? So it's Dean Martin, right? So what does Drew and Dean Martin have in common? Well, clearly Dean Martin was manic. He clearly had a drinking problem. He was good with the ladies. And when Dean Martin got his star, he was about 65. He clearly had prostate problems. So Drew, you fit in perfectly with everybody on the Walk of Fame. But no. Seriously though, Drew has been an older brother, an older confidant. Their family, like I said before, has been my second whatever. Their family has been a second family to me. I'm like their Cato Kaling. I go on trips with them. I go everywhere with them. So it's been great. But you know, exactly. But you know, Drew, in seriousness, I know although you had to pay for this star, I still think you deserved it. Here's to Drew, everybody.
I'd shake Chopra's hand on that. It was such a good talk. Thanks, RC. I'd shake his hand, but I'm worried if he just did a prostate exam on Drew, so I'm going to wait on that. You know, one of my things with Drew, I'm Rob. I'm the PA in the practice. I've been with him since '86. And I might... A physician assistant, yeah. Not a production assistant, which is way down the scale. I had prepared some comments, but I think a lot of them are offensive to certain. Are there any people here? Put your hand up if you're. You better leave. But I'm always giving him lines, you know, like you got to say this, you got to be funny. You know, when he's getting his prostate exam, he was supposed to say, "So doc, you ever do time?" Or do you need to use the whole fist? You know. But I've known Drew longer than most of you. I mean, I knew him before the bald spot. And turn around. It's dude, you were supposed to do. You had the whole summer. You were supposed to do something about that. But there's been a lot said about the good-looking thing. But for me, it's a negative thing because he goes in with a consult and he's talking with her for, you know, if they're real pretty, like half an hour. And then he comes out, and I say, so what did Drew recommend? I'm there to do the closer, right? You know, kind of arrange things. Yeah, I'm the closer. So I go in, and I say, so what do you recommend? And they're like, I don't know. He just looked at me with those eyes, and he was talking, and they have no idea what he even said, usually. But it worked against him one time, because he was taking pictures of this patient, pre-op photos. I don't know why I wasn't doing it. Do you know who I'm talking about? Yeah? This guy liked Drew. And, you know, he's taking pictures. Something about him taking pictures of him excited the guy. So pretty soon, Drew had to excuse himself. He thought he was going to get poked in the eye. But that was a long time ago. But, you know, he's attractive to everybody. I'm in Palm Springs. I could talk like that, you know. I told you about being offensive. But you know, it's nice working with Dr. Chopra. It's a little tough hanging with him. He's a young stud in plastic surgery, you know.